Good morning and welcome to this collective worship. Before we begin, let's light a candle to remember that God is always with us. The Lord be with you. So we're still in what's called the season of Easter. I'm sure most of you have eaten all your Easter eggs by now. I know all mine have gone. But it's still the season of Easter until Ascension Day. And so I thought we would look today at a story about Saint Peter. This story about Saint Peter begins right back at the time when Jesus was arrested. We're calling the story Peter and the Big Breakfast. The guards came to arrest Jesus, if you remember, in the garden. And Peter and the other disciples, they ran away. The soldiers took Jesus to the high priest. But Peter was brave. He wasn't a chicken, and he followed after them. "Halt! Who goes there?" asked the girl guarding the gate. "Are you a follower of Jesus?" No, said Peter. Jesus is not my friend." Once inside, Peter joined a group huddled around the fire. "Something smells fishy. Are you one of those fishermen who follows Jesus?" "Oh, no, said Peter. "I've never been fishing in my life. Jesus is not my friend." "Didn't I see you in the garden with a sword? You're a follower of Jesus." And Peter got angry. No, he yelled. "Jesus is not my friend." And then the rooster crowed. "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" And Jesus looked at his friend Peter. And Peter ran out of the gate and cried and cried and cried. He returned to Galilee, where he was originally from and where he had originally met Jesus. And he sat on the beach and he watched the sunset. He thought about how he had run away and left his friend Jesus, and he felt so ashamed. He thought about the cross and felt sad. He thought about the empty tomb and felt very, very confused. "I may be ashamed, sad, confused, chicken," said Peter, "but I am still a fisherman." So Peter gathered his friends, climbed into the boat, and headed out on the Sea of Galilee. Into the deep he threw the nets and waited and waited and waited and waited. Peter slowly rowed back to the beach. That morning, as the sun rose, a lone fisherman stood on the beach and cast his net. The fisherman dragged his catch ashore, collected driftwood, sparked his flint, and warmed himself by the fire. He cleaned the fish and he cooked his catch. The lone fisherman stood on the beach and watched a boat row back to shore. Splush. "Friends," yelled the fisherman, "throw your nets on the right-hand side." Into the deep they threw the nets, and fish. Not 10, not 100, but 153 enormous fish. "It's Jesus," yelled John. "It's the Lord." And Peter dived into the sea and swam to the beach. "Bring your fish," said Jesus. "Let's have some breakfast." After breakfast, Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me more than they do?" "Yes, Lord," replied Peter. "You know I'm your friend." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Jesus asked a second time, "Peter, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," said Peter. "You know I am your friend." Jesus replied, "Look after my sheep." Then Jesus asked a third time, "Peter, are you my friend?" "Yes, Lord, you know my heart. You know I'm your friend." "Peter," said Jesus, "feed my sheep." Don't worry about John, Peter, my friend. You follow me. And so Peter, the fisherman, who still felt a bit chicken, stepped forward, and again he followed his friend Jesus. I wonder, how did Peter feel at the end of that story? I wonder why Jesus asked Peter 3 times if he loved him. Why do you think? And I wonder what Jesus meant by "feed my sheep." Again, what do you think? Heavenly Father, we thank you for St. Peter, and that he followed Jesus, that he made mistakes, but Jesus forgave him and loved him. Amen. Did you manage to answer those questions? I hope so. Perhaps you'd like to think about a different way of telling that story, or maybe you'd like to draw a picture of that story. Maybe draw yourself in that story, being with Jesus on the beach, eating the fish. If you do, and you do manage to do any drawings, post them up on the St. Chad's page on Facebook, or get your mum or dad or carer to post them up. I'd love to see them. I thought we'd finish today by hearing Joseph Webster sing a song that we always sing in St. Chad's on Easter Sunday. And we sang it this year, although we celebrated Easter Sunday in my garden. But Joseph recorded this for us. And so I thought you would perhaps like to hear it. Thank you, Joseph.
Thine be the glory, risen conquering Son. Endless is the